So the first person will be Suzanne Semedo. Suzanne, please.
Um, the first thing I want to say, I've been pleased to speak on the issue of equal pay, and so firstly, I just want to start by making the first point, which is context is everything. And so I appreciate this is a global audience with many people residing in many different countries here. So we are at the moment celebrating a day that comprises of 49.6% of the global population. And as part of that, also recognizing that we're also talking about a large majority of the population are reflected here. 70% of women in the global population come from non-European backgrounds. I say that because I'm residing in the UK. I work as a D&I strategist within the UK government. And a lot of the time when we talk about equal pay and issues in terms of gender equality, it can sometimes be in certain countries through a European glaze of feminism and gender equality. So there is a compound effect of gender equality with ethnicity, with social mobility, a number of other things that needs to be acknowledged here. But let's work at pace because we recognise that there's all this international legislation, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, and many other things that are telling us that we should, that are acknowledging the fundamental rights that women should be able to access. But let's dig into the terminology. When we're talking about, while you talked, Isosa, about equal pay, let's not also differentiate that equal pay from the gender pay gap, because sometimes I've noticed that people can use that interchangeably. So when I'm talking about equal pay, we're talking about a man and woman being paid the same in the same employment and receiving around the same amount of remuneration. So, in the same employment, performing equal work and receiving equal reward. But when we talk about gender pay gap, that's slightly different. So, this is more of a holistic, hello, this is more of a holistic picture, which is talking about a when you look at the average of earnings of men and women, hello, earnings of men and women, we've got we've got some people campaigning for equal rights to the conversation at the moment. But when we talk about men and women, irrespective of their of their profession, what's the average salaries, the average hourly take home earnings for men and women, and are we seeing differences? And the data shows that for globally, I think it's at the moment, globally, we're looking at women earning 23% less than men globally. Um, and the drivers for that can be many multifaceted, but there are certain themes that keep on coming up, irrespective of what country that you're based in. All right. So apologies for the many academics and analysts and economists who want to get into the detail here, but let me just pull into some themes that have been touched upon also in this call. The first one is about access to education. While we have many people from esteemed doctors and academics here, there are many women who are struggling just to get access to schooling because of the societal expectations. And then even once they do, are being steered towards particular fields of study. So we know within the UK context where I'm based that the science, technology, engineering and maths fields of study tend to set people up for more um, lucrative careers, salaries that really pay the big bucks, as it were. But often women aren't steered or to consider those professions. Then there's the issue of the professions and how they build upon those qualifications and what professions they go into, and the reality being that there are certain values that are assigned to certain professions. So there are a certain value judgment placed upon those carrying out roles within domestic services compared to those in medicine and other fields. And within this period of the coronavirus and the pandemic, as we've started to think about what those essential professions are, we have started to have to question whether those value judgments about what's important and who is important are the right ones. There's also the pace of promotions um, within within organizations. Often organizations make the very blanket statement that, well, we have more, or even within, aside from organizations, countries make the blanket statements, well, we have less women on boards, or more, we need more women at senior positions. But even when women enter in to the workplace at the same position as men, they are less likely to climb further up the ladder. And then finally, the gender pay issues are affected by societal expectations. Many commented here, but I'm going to hone in on caring responsibilities. Women continue to bear the brunt of expectations for caring, and particularly in respect of the effects of motherhood, known as the motherhood penalty. If you have a child between the ages of 25 and 35 in the UK, you're more likely to face lesser earnings and be less likely to recover your earnings later on in your career. So against that rather sad outlook of the effect of women, there are things that we could do. Obviously, as I said, context is everything, and culture has a lot to do in terms of defining the extent that women can have the power and influence to bring about changes in this regard. But I will outline just four things, if so enables me to have the time to do so. Four things. Yeah, time
Please,
check.
1 minute.
1 minute, lovely. Four things that I would suggest that you hone on, and most of those have been covered by our esteemed panelists here. So I will just flag it as a highlight. The first thing is, in a society where everyone's telling women what to do, what their value is, where their skills are. It's so important to have a sense of your own value, to know yourself, to know your strengths, to know your skills, and even the foundations in which that sits, whether that be your faith, whether that be your particular interests and passions, the desire to know yourself, and to cement that knowledge of continual improvement and learning from a very early age. The second thing is around creating the vision. These are, once again, I'm outlining things that I believe we can take charge of quite quickly. And many of the panelists have talked about how they cut through boundaries and stereotypes to really go for what they wanted within their own life. And that vision, not just of a career plan, but of a life plan, is essential. There are societal expectations that will affect your ability to climb towards your potential, and there's a reality on that, and an ability to be aware of the checks and balances that most women have to make as part of their career. The third thing I will talk about is about assembling a team, your squad, your cheerleaders within life. And that is the things that many of the women have on this panel have referred to. That's about coaches, mentors, sponsors, buddies, people, trusted elders, people that you can go to for support and advice when you need to. And that's in addition to gaining the knowledge and qualifications. These are the people that will help navigate your career path and navigate some of, as I said, the checks and balances that you may have to make along the way. And finally, a growth mindset. And my colleague referred to women sometimes having limiting beliefs and opting out of, be more likely to opt out of opportunities compared to men, who are more likely to push themselves forward even if they have less qualified. And so it's this thing of actually surrendering yourself to make mistakes, to alter paths, to pause, to auto accelerate, to really actually embrace the opportunity to learn along the way, and know that your path, the trail that you blaze, needs to be your own.